So good morning. Welcome to the Windows in the Enterprise Foundation session, where we'll continue the discussion that we started in the keynote this morning, kind of introducing all of you to what is Windows 8.1. In the session today, I will be talking about a variety of topics and will be helped out by Stephen Rose, another of the senior product marketing managers on our team, where we'll go through some of the additional features in Windows 8. We'll show a few demos along the way. We've got some special guests here with us that we'll talk to for a little bit about some of the apps that we're working on. So let's get started. There's a few areas that we want to talk about as we're going through. So we'll go through each of these in a little bit of detail and talk about some of the functions and some of the new capabilities that Windows 8.1 will be adding. There won't be a tremendous amount of depth because we just really wanted to give more of an introduction. We will also provide links to other sessions that will be happening throughout the week where we'll get deeper into the new functionality that's going to be provided. So we'll start off talking about kind of some of the fundamentals. How is Windows 8 going to be a better business device? And what additional capabilities will be present for businesses, and also then how do you deploy it? So when it comes to Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 being the best business tablet, we have a device, we have an operating system that can support all different types of input. Whether it's touch, mouse, keyboard, pen, we can handle that. We also know that Windows 8 and 8.1 work very well for mobile users. With the latest hardware that's come out, with the newest form factors, we have the ability to run very well on these new types of devices. But we also want to make sure that we can also provide a great desktop experience. So making sure that whether it's a touch-enabled all-in-one desktop device or a non-touch enabled device, we still get a great desktop experience. So we put a lot of work into UI enhancements. You started to see some of those introduced in the keynote session this morning. There will be more discussions around that in the coming weeks. Most of that will be discussed at the Build conference in a couple of weeks. So we won't get too much into the UI enhancements other than to talk about kind of at a high level, here are the types of things that we're looking to do. But most of those UI discussions then will come in a couple of weeks. With every version of Windows, enterprise manageability is a big focus, and we want to make sure that we can enhance that, especially to support BYOD scenarios, so we'll spend some time talking about that later on. We want to make sure that Windows 8.1 continues to move the bar forward as far as security, so we'll talk about some of the new security capabilities and do a demo around that. Just all around, we want to make sure that Windows 8.1 can provide something for every enterprise. From a fundamentals perspective, we want to make sure that Windows 8.1 is very compatible. So we expect that desktop application compatibility between Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows 8.1 will be excellent. If your apps run on Windows 7, they'll run on Windows 8. If they run on Windows 8, they'll run on Windows 8.1. The same would apply for the Windows 8, the Windows Store apps. Those will all work on Windows 8.1 as well. So we don't need to worry so much about application compatibility. That's not an area that we're really making a whole lot of changes to, so we don't expect there to be too many issues with applications. We also want to make sure that the same hardware that you're currently using for either Windows 7 or Windows 8 can also run Windows 8.1. So there's no new logo certification for 8.1. It's all the Windows 8 certified devices will be able to run Windows 8.1. And all Windows 7 certified devices will be able to run Windows 8.1 as well. So no issues there from a hardware compatibility standpoint. The resource requirements will be the same. No additional RAM, no additional disk space, no additional CPU required. In fact, we expect Windows 8.1 to be even more efficient, to make better use of the hardware, to use fewer CPU cycles, less memory, less disk space overall. There'll be a new version of Internet Explorer, IE 11, will be included in Windows 8.1. Again, we don't expect there to be any significant compatibility changes compared to IE 10. So if you have your web applications working with IE 10, we would expect all of those to work with IE 11 as well. From a performance, efficiency, reliability perspective, we would expect improved battery life, both from the platform itself as well as from new hardware that will be coming out in the near future. There will be better graphics performance. We've done some work to try to tune all of the graphics and animation and performance of just the overall feel for how Windows runs on these devices. We've also enhanced all of the inbox apps. So we continue to work on those inbox applications and to create new additional inbox applications that you'll see in Windows 8 to provide more productivity functionality out of the box. From a deployment perspective, deployment of Windows 8.1 for devices that are currently running Windows 8, you have a couple of choices. We want to make that process easier. We want it to be a simple update deployment, so you don't have to redeploy all of your apps, drivers, packages, everything else that you need as part of your deployment. Instead, you can just run a single command. It will take your existing operating system from Windows 8 to Windows 8.1. If you're coming from Windows 7, it's more of a traditional deployment. That traditional deployment would be using Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, would be using System Center Configuration Manager to do the more traditional refresh type deployment of the OS. So we want to take a little bit of time then to show you what that would look like. It's important to point out, though, that there are two different experiences. There is a consumer experience where you would go to the Windows Store, you would find a new entry for Windows 8.1, and you would install it through the Windows Store. It would automatically download the new operating system image in the background, notify you when the download is complete, and say, okay, now you can install Windows 8.1. It would install in the background. At some point along the way, it will say, I want to reboot the computer to continue the process. And within an hour, you should have the new operating system up and running. The performance is going to vary based on the actual speed of the machine. The fastest installation that we've seen is about in the 10 to 15 minute range. The slowest ones that we've seen on some of the Windows 8 logo certified machines is approaching 55 minutes, but it's all going to depend on the type of hard drive and the download speeds and other things that factor into that as well. But it's designed to be easy to install, easy to deploy, easy for consumers to get. But that's not really an enterprise deployment strategy. You don't really want 10,000 people to go out to the Windows Store and each download a 2 gigabyte operating system image. Your internet connection probably wouldn't appreciate that. So we need to provide alternative mechanisms for enterprises to be able to deploy this. So that's where we can use something like System Center Configuration Manager to do that deployment. So let's see if we can start that process. Let me see if I can get my machine up here. So I have a device here that's running Windows 8. And it's a Configuration Manager client. So in Configuration Manager, there is an application catalog, basically an enterprise app store. This application catalog has an entry in it for Windows 8.1. In this case, it's set up for a self-service deployment, so the user can go out, find the Windows 8.1 entry, and click Install. So that's what I'll do in this case to initiate the process. If you don't want it to be self-service, of course, Configuration Manager can also push this out. So you can create the package inside a Configuration Manager and target groups of machines. The process now will start. It will verify that the machine is in a good condition to run Windows 8.1. It'll reboot a few times, and after about 10 minutes, we'll come back and we'll look at this, and we'll see that the machine is now running Windows 8.1. So while that is running through, let's take a look at the setup in Configuration Manager to see what that looks like. If we have video for that machine. There we go. So in Configuration Manager, we've created a package. In that package, we've added the Windows 8.1 source files, and we've created a program with a command line that runs setup.exe/auto:upgrade. That's all we need to do. We just run that command. It will install the new operating system, taking all of the Windows 8 applications, all the data, everything that you have in your current OS, and migrate that forward to the new OS. So we talked about the Windows Store being used for consumer deployments. We will use an enterprise deployment mechanism for enterprise deployments. So how does it tell which one to do when? Well, if you have a machine that's been activated using volume activation, using KMS, using Mac, using your traditional volume activation mechanisms, we will never offer an update through the Windows Store because it's a volume activated system. We're assuming you as an enterprise wants to be able to control that deployment. So the store will only offer this to retail and OEM activated machines. For VL activated machines, you'll use Configuration Manager, you'll use any other enterprise software distribution tool that can run a command line. All it needs to do is run that same setup.exe/auto:upgrade switch, and it will take care of the rest. Now, let's assume that maybe you're a smaller business, maybe you don't have volume license versions of Windows in your environment, or maybe you're using Windows 8 Pro, but not the volume license version. There's also policies in place that you can set a policy to say, block the update from the store, just like we have the IE blocker tool. Well, you'll also be provided a Windows 8.1 update blocking tool where you can set the policy to say, don't offer this until it's been blessed inside of my organization. So you get those controls for the retail side. For the VL side, you control the updates yourself. Now, in the case of the store update, really in either case, we're running the same engine behind the scenes. We have the setup engine from Windows going through and performing the update. We've already rebooted the first time, so the operating system image has been applied. The operating system is now going through and initializing. We won't actually see the projection for that as it's going through, so we'll let it keep running while it does that. At least I don't think we'll be able to see it. Nope, it's not going to project. So we'll come back and check on that in a little bit. Okay, so while that continues to run, let's talk about some of the other related sessions that we have where we'll talk about more of these fundamentals, more about Windows 8 deployment, and really just some general Q&A sessions that we'll have hosted. So tomorrow morning, first thing, we have a session called Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Windows, but Were Afraid to Ask. Myself, Stephen, and several of the other members of our team will be there tomorrow morning. You can come to that one, and it'll basically be an open Q&A session talking about Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and any enterprise questions that you may have. I have a session on Wednesday called What's New in Windows 8.1 Deployment, where we'll talk about the new deployment tools that we'll make available. Things like the Assessment and Deployment Kit. There'll be a new version of the ADK that gets released. What's changed with that? New version of the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. What's going to be changed with that? How does that support Windows 8.1? The new version of System Center Configuration Manager 2012 R2. All of those are key components for deploying Windows 8.1. Fortunately, they'll all be simple updates from the existing deployment tools that you're using today. No major changes in the deployment process itself, just updated versions of the tools that will be necessary to deploy Windows 8.1, to build your Windows 8.1 images, or to do the more traditional refresh processes for those of you that are coming from Windows 7 or earlier operating systems. We have a session this afternoon with myself and Aaron talking about what's new in the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. With that, we'll be talking mostly about MDT 2012 Update 1, which has been out for just under a year now. So we'll focus more on what's changed in that, but we'll also have a period where we talk about the Delta changes for MDT 2013 as well. It'll be fairly simple, fairly minor to upgrade from MDT 2012 Update 1 to MDT 2013 to get you in a position to deploy Windows 8.1. We're getting close on our upgrade, our update. We'll see if it comes back here shortly. If not, we can check on it again later. So at this point, let me bring Stephen up to the stage and let's talk about applications.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
All right, apps for business is one of those areas that we started talking about last year, and we have really come very, very far. We've seen so many great apps, so many great things that I've been chatting with developers about, new opportunities. As I go into the Windows 8 store, I see a lot of those apps that I use every single day, whether it's as I travel, as I do things. Plus now, we have fart apps, so I'm very, very happy. You don't have to be only on an iPhone or on an iPad to get those. You now can get those on Windows, so it's a good thing. We're going to take a look at 4 specific apps today, actually 5. We're going to take a look at some really neat work that we've been doing with the Toyota Racing folks who are here today, and they're going to talk a little bit more about how that has really changed the way that they look at racing and how it's allowed them and really given them an edge against the competition, which for those of you that follow NASCAR, tenths of a second make a difference, and how this app can really bring that to fruition. We're going to talk about Erste Bank, another one of our customers, and an app that they use internally as soon as their customers walk in the door to talk about financial future. We'll take a look at a really great crowdsourced app from SAS, from Scandinavian Airlines. We'll take a look at an app that will be coming out in the near future for the general public that will be available to everybody from Baker Hughes, and we'll also take a look at a medical app. So what I want to do is actually sort of kick off the great discussion we're going to have with the TRD folks today with a video. You folks are the first people to see it. This actually will go live in the next hour up on the blog. So let's take you into the world of TRD Racing, NASCAR.
Alex Bowman. I drive the 99 RAB Racing Toyota for Robbie Benton and RAB Racing.
Alex Bowman, I'll call him the young sensation with what he's shown us so far this season in that 99 car.
Chris Rice, the crew chief for the number 99 RAB Camry Toyota.
Chris Rice, who's the crew chief, was number 99 car. Must really have their car figured out pretty good because they were fast when it was hot. Now they're even faster.
I'm Robbie Benton. I'm president and co-owner of RAB Racing with Brack Maggard. NASCAR is a very competitive sport, especially in the Nationwide Series. Our life is judged off of fractions of a second. We live and die by the stopwatch.
Green flag, green flag. Still there at your bumper. You're clear, all clear. Nice and smooth here, bud. Find a rhythm. Nice rhythm right here.
ASC, half pound out that right rear, half pound out that right rear. 4 tires here. 5, 4, 3. Start turning in, hit your sign. Clean the grill, guys. Till your band is home. Get that tape off. To them tape. Get that tape. Get out. Go, 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 go. One lane, one lane, one lane, one lane, one lane. Beach 43 right there.
Before it was paper-based, everything about it. Now, with the Surface Windows 8, it's very mobile. Now you can take that and you can stick it in the window and show it to him.
Throughout practice, you'll make various changes to the race car. So with the new Surface and the TRD app, being able to take notes on it and just speed up the communication between myself and the crew chief.
We're a little free in when I drive it in deep. a little tight right in the center, then we're a little free off of 4. More like a side bite thing off of 4. I think your track bar needs to come up a little bit for this deal.
We estimate or evaluate how well our practice goes by how many runs we get, because each run has a specific goal in mind. What we found with the Surface tablet and the Trackside app is that we've been able to get more runs on the racetrack. So regardless of how many laps we're trying to make or how long the session itself is, we're actually able to learn more.
The track map's the biggest thing, being able to pinpoint exactly where the race car's doing different things. With as big as the racetracks are, there's always that margin of error where a crew chief might not know exactly where you're talking about on the racetrack or might just misunderstand you.
I think the TRD Trackside app was definitely a contributor to us being able to win our first pole. I believe we were able to maximize our on-track time, and every run that we made counted. So I would attribute a large part of us being able to win the pole at Texas Motor Speedway to the use of the TRD Trackside app on Surface Pro.
Free on throttle, getting off the corner, a little bit free in. Alex, great job so far. Keep your front fans on.
Here's Alex Bowman, the super rookie this year.
Yeah, this kid here has been very impressive. Just never really showing that he's a rookie, just really solid up front all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, help me please welcome the RAB and TRD Toyota Racing teams. Come on up, guys. Grab a seat. We have microphones for everyone. So, Alex, I'm going to start with you down on the end. How is this, and I know we saw in the video, but really, how has having this application really changed? Because the tracks are loud. It's really hard to hear, and you're talking about getting more runs in. So how's this really made a difference for you?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us is just communication. It's a tool that has helped us speed up our communication and just kind of clear out some things that could have been misunderstood previously. So it's helped us be able to run more in practice and keep a better log of notes and just communicate better as a whole.
Right. Where did the decision come from to go ahead and go forward with this app, to get rid of the pen and paper, as you were saying, and sort of move into this?
Yeah, when we, in racing, we've used pen and paper for so long, we had to do something to gain more track time. So when Toyota and TRD and you guys, we all got together and they came up with it, it has really helped us have more track time.
What about from a management standpoint? How did that come down when you took a look and they first showed it to you? What were your thoughts when you first saw the application?
We were very impressed with it. Obviously, this is something that was initiated and kind of pushed to us through Toyota Racing Development. We, as a team supported by Toyota, were just offered the opportunity to be able to start using the app. We've been using it for about 6 months now, so we're still learning. But I think one of the most important things for us is the environment that we live in. Communication is key. And we have 39 other competitors any given week. So we are all communicating back and forth on two-way radios. So one thing that this has allowed us to do, because we all monitor each other's radio communication, so each team is kind of eavesdropping on the other teams, trying to figure out what they're doing, how they're doing it. So this has opened up a lot of unspoken communication between crew chief and driver, and there's a lot of stuff that's we use the touch screen for, and they can kind of communicate back and forth through
secretly and quietly.
Secretly, so no one can eavesdrop on that.
Excellent. So from a development standpoint, they came to you and said, hey, we want to build this out. How did you guys sort of take a look at this, and why the Windows platform? And what were some of the tools that you used to build this out? It's on. It should be. Here, let's do this. No, this one's not on either. Here, why don't you, go ahead. We'll trade it out. We'll figure it out while the tech guys sort it out.
Okay, so the first thing is they already had an existing application, a WPF application to begin with, right? So we wanted to leverage that application. Plus, they already have a security infrastructure in place, which we can leverage. And they also have a deployment in place, which we can leverage as well. So our focus is mainly on building the application itself, right? So all the infrastructure is already in place, and Windows 8 can leverage those. And then the other thing is we started this during consumer preview. So we have like 5 weeks to complete this app, so we wanted to leverage as much as possible. Plus, we wanted to use all the development that they're already familiar with, right? So we use those tools as well, right? So those are...
So being able to leverage the current infrastructure, being able to use the tools that you've been using to develop apps right out, started with the consumer preview, and we're going to continue on with 8.1.
Exactly.
Anything to add to that?
Yeah, also, whenever we used Windows 8, we're able to leverage the existing development environment that they're using. So they were able to use Visual Studio, and also with the new way to develop apps for Windows Store apps using HTML and JavaScript, we were able to, because we were in consumer preview and release preview when we were actually building this app, there weren't any charting controls and things like that we could use. So using HTML and JavaScript allowed us to use the vast number of charting JavaScript libraries out there.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we have you give a demo of the app, and then we'll open it up to some questions for the floor, if you have for the team, on the app, what they're doing, even personal questions, we can cover that. So I'll let you guys jump in. So let me go ahead and switch this over. We'll go to Slate. And, no, hang on. Set switch. Right, is that the right one? Yeah, there we go. All right, you're all set.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and just start up the app. It's the red TRD. So when you first come into the app, we can see all the different race sessions that we've had. So every time that we go to the track and we do a practice session or we have a race, it saves those files and so that we can go back to them maybe the next time we go to the same track and see the notes that were taken then, the different adjustments that were made to the car. So what we're going to do now is just start a new session. And we have a way to simulate a practice session. So we're going to load up a file that we've recorded from the NASCAR feed and then run through that so you can see how it kind of works.
I love that it says speed really fast on this. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so you'll see that the cars in this are moving at light speed. So whenever you get to the track, NASCAR has a feed that they send out wirelessly to all the different teams. So everybody is working with the same data. When you're down at the booth and you can see the car, you'll notice that there aren't any speedometers or gas gauges or anything like that. So this data is really something that's used to make decisions on the track. So we're going to go ahead and act like we're connecting to the NASCAR feed. You can see the cars start coming in. As cars start to cross the stripe, their positions change since this is a practice race. The number one position is always the fastest lap. It's not in order of where they are on the track. It's whoever's had the fastest lap. Also, you'll see these black boxes are drivers that are spotlighted, so ones that we want to keep track of and maybe compare our track times to other cars on the track. And then we can also change their colors and things like that. So you can show we have the ability to go in, change colors, allows us to track the different cars that we want to maybe compare ourselves against during practice. And now if we go to driver spotlight, we can then see a graphical view. This is one of the areas where we were utilizing some of the JavaScript libraries that were available to us. And we can see all the different lap times, and they're coming in real time here, you can see, as the laps happen. And we can get a more detailed view if we drill down into that. Now if we go to the run comparison. So run is a set of laps that you do during practice. So you may go out, run 5 laps, come back in, make adjustments to the car, and then go back out and do another set of laps. So here we're going to add a few different runs and compare ourselves to other cars on the track. And this is where we've used some more of that graphing. So we can see that the laps are graphed on here, and in this case there's a pretty small, insignificant amount of change, but you can see that it's also updating as the laps come through dynamically. And then in the last section that I think most people are most excited about, like Alex was saying in the video and up here, is the driver notes. So when they come in after a practice run, they'll set the surface on the steering wheel, and then they'll be able to make their notes. So they come in and they can say, in this turn, it was loose or tight, and they can identify that via the different indicators. So then we save that, and then whenever you go into a session file later, all of these notes are saved. They can go in and take a look at them after the race, after the practice, and then make those adjustments for the race the next day.
All right.
Excellent. Do you guys want to add anything to that?
The comparison where I use that a lot because it's all speed and how long you can run that fast on a set of tires. So we use this particular part of it myself a lot, and the being able to communicate by touching the screen is a lot better than him listening to my accent because it's really hard for him to understand me.
All right. We have microphones out in the audience, so if you have a question, go ahead and step up and we'll answer that one. Just got a question on Twitter a few minutes ago, so Alex, it's for you, and the question is, what kind of cars do you drive in your personal life?
I have a 2013 Lexus GS 350 F Sport.
All right. Thanks. Any questions from the audience on the app, on the team? And then also I want to make you guys aware of this, and that is Alex and the team will be signing autographs in our Windows booth from 6 to 8. We have a car down there. No, you cannot get inside the car. Sorry. We will do a live demo of this app at 7:15 tonight, and we're going to be giving this week away. Let's start that again. All week we will be allowing you to enter to win a pair of NASCAR Hot Passes for a nationwide series race. We'll be doing that drawing on 1 o'clock on Thursday, so we encourage you to stop by. The video we just showed you will be answering questions, plus we have a device bar down there, and we have experts from our various Windows teams to answer all your questions on 8 and 8.1. If there are no questions, or if everybody's a little too shy to answer it, I'll thank you guys for coming out. Excellent. Let's give them a big hand. All right, so I'm going to move this forward. And let's go here. Awesome. All right, your demo finished. Do you want to take a second? You want to show it?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Which machine do you want here?
Go to 8.
Okay. I think I need to switch you back to that. Yep.
So let's log in and see. Well, let's try to prove that we're running Windows 8.1. Of course, as everyone was shuffling up onto the stage, we could see the deployment completing.
Yes.
So it was just a minute or two too long, but that's okay.
That's the way we planned it.
Now, don't be overly surprised. We'll log in, we'll see Windows 8.1, and you won't see a lot of the UI enhancements that we've been referring to in the blogs and in the keynote, because we are running a build of Windows here that doesn't have all of those particular updates in them yet. Those will be disclosed much more in depth at the build conference later this month. But now at least we can go to the desktop, see our little confidentiality message saying that we are running Windows 8.1 Enterprise Preview. So fairly easy to do that update process to take you from 8.0 to 8.1.
I like to make this tile big. I like the big tile. There we go.
So some of the enhancements
are
in
some of the
there.
enhancements. We have a few up there.
And we could name our groups here and all kinds of other little tweaks, but more of that will be added as we get closer to the preview release.
All right. Thank you, Michael. So let's take a look at some of these other apps that we have. I'm going to start with this SAS app. This is a public app. You can go out to the store. You can download this. And I love this concept. Who knows more about a city than the flight attendants and flight crew that fly on those planes? They're absolutely some of the best people. So they had an idea. What if we built out an app? So we'll take a look here at the crew guide for Stockholm. And this launches. I'm going to allow it to use my location. And it says, hey, here we are. And then you'll see these categories: sleep, eat, buy, and see. So if we go to sleep, what you will find, actually, let's go to eat. We'll like eat. There we go. Lots of restaurants. So we can go in, and what the flight crew can do is say, hey, there's this great restaurant. This is Nina who added it, and she puts in some of her reviews, some of the nearby places, why she loves it. She says, very good food served in a marine-inspired floating restaurant by the ancient idol of Sigtuna, fantastic and rustic atmosphere surrounded by water. So each of the folks can go in, and what's nice is it becomes a way for them as their customers come on board the plane to say, hi, or you know what, if you have a Windows 8 device, download this and check out some of those recommendations, or for the folks who fly a lot to say, I saw your recommendation, I recognize you, it was great. It's a really great way for these folks to share their knowledge and a great way for the customers to be able to reach out and see those folks. So that's the SAS app. Like I said, you can go out and you can download that today. The next one we're going to take a look at is this one from Erste Bank. And what they've done here is create an application when a customer walks in to talk about investments, talk about loans, how can they really sort of personalize this experience? So what happens is they sit down, they bring up the profile for this person. This is not a public app. The customer cannot get this at home. They can go into the graphing aspect, and once they get here, they could take a look at the variables. So they could go in and they could say, you know what, we're going to increase this length or decrease this length. We'll go into here. We'll make this a 6-year increment, and then we'll go ahead and we'll bring that out. So it really allows them on the fly to sort of customize this information for the customers, be able to sort of take a look at it in some different ways and say, what if we make these changes? And to be able to do it live on the fly, but not just with general information, with that customer's investment information. This is a pretty simple app. The great thing, as we said before, if you've already built an infrastructure, if you've got SQL, you've got server, you have somebody who knows how to build basic apps with Visual Studio, you're ready to go ahead and build apps like this today and manage and support them right out of the box. Our next app is this app from Baker Hughes. This is an app that will be a public app that will be coming out a little bit later on this year. And the idea is this is an app that's built for their investors or people that want to better understand where are they going to be drilling for oil, gas, thermal, etc. And if you are a stockholder or investor in this company, how can you be aware of what they're doing every single day? So we see the amount of total rigs, we see the trajectory percentage, and we see where they're at. So we could go in and we could pick a state. So we'll go in here and I'm going to pick California. And it lists all the rigs, so I can click on any one of these and it gives me all the nice information. I can see here's the rig details, here's where it's at. I can zoom in and out on that map, get a good understanding, what's the water depth, exactly what's happening. Also good if you plan to buy property and don't want to buy one of these rigs, you can make sure that you're set there too. So all this can be done on the fly. We can take a look at it by location. We can just go to a map itself. The map will launch. I can zoom in on any area. And then once I get there, go ahead and click that, click on the rig details and be able to see that on the fly. So this is a great way if you've invested in this company to right then and there, right at that moment, what are they doing, how are they building, how is this moving forward, and where is this coming with real-time data that's coming from that company. A great way to connect the users of the product with the company that has built that and how they choose to put that together. And as I said, that app should be available a little bit later on this year. The final app I want to show is one called Rounds. Now, this is an internal app which we've built. We've built this because we do a lot of what we call briefings, executive briefings we do with various medical companies. And they said, well, what would an app look like? If we wanted to build the perfect app and sort of integrate all this stuff, how would we do that and how would we put that together? I realized I left my pen down there. So we'll click here on Physician. And the first thing we see is, hey, we've gotten an instant message from someone. We can take a look at the patient. So we'll click the instant message and it says, hey, do you have a minute? Can I get back? I have a question on something that's going on. We can certainly click out of that. So we'll start with Jason McHugh, our patient. And let's find out exactly where he's at. And using RFID that's attached to the bed or attached to his wrist, it tells us exactly where he is at, that patient within the hospital. We also can use this to track all of our doctors, nurses, assistants, etc. Moving back, I can take a look at the procedure. So he has some congestive heart failure. So the first thing it's going to do is in the overview page, it's going to tell us about the procedure that he has going. And then I can take a look at the diagrams. I can draw right on this. I left my pen down there, but I can draw on this. I can circle. I'm like, don't remove this part of the heart. Please remove this one. And then, of course, the consent form, which is great, and that's going to be signed right here by the patient. So all of that is in one place. We're not leaving the app to go ahead and do that. As I take a look at other doctors, I can take a look at the cardiologist. I can click his name. I can say, hey, I want to push out an IM. I have a question. I want to send an email. So I can go ahead and click that, and I can immediately connect with them. This is taking our linked services, SQL services, RFID services, and putting them together into an app that we were able to build in just a few days and be able to put those services together, but integrate them into a complete managed and secure app. Because this is on a Windows device, because this is domain joined, group policy, secure, manage, encrypted drives, we're able to do this and we're able to keep that information secure as we move back and forth between the various doctors and the various aspects of the agencies. So that's a look at a few apps. We're going to have more that we're going to be talking about throughout the week. Also, if you come down to the Windows booth downstairs, we have additional apps that we will be talking about and that we will be showing and we'll be walking through. So a few bits of related content. Whoops, went one too far. Is the Windows Store Apps Enterprise Line of Business App Development Scenarios that Michael's going to be doing tomorrow. And we also have a design guidance for Windows Store Line of Business Apps that Robert Green will be doing on Wednesday.
Yeah, and in the first session we'll talk about, well, okay, you know how to build these apps if you're a developer, but as an IT pro, how do you deploy them? So we want to focus on how to do that. Second one, Robert's going to talk about, well, for the developers in you, well, here's how to actually create one using Visual Studio, using .NET, using the things that you already know. So, next topic, enterprise-grade security. And this is one of those areas where we're just never done. As we talked in the keynote earlier, we can continue to add features for security, but the hackers out there, the people trying to obtain information from your machines, will never cease to find more creative ways to attack. So we have to continually add new abilities to Windows to be able to deal with those types of new challenges. There are some sessions coming up later in the week where you actually sit and you listen to the types of threats that we're going to be facing and realize that this is some scary stuff, that there are large organizations, many people trying to come up with creative ways to attack your machines to gain information. It's not just the teenager in a basement somewhere who's trying to figure out how they can create havoc. It's more of the institutionalized hacking that's going after your critical business data. So to address that in Windows, we're adding capabilities to do biometrics. We're adding more around multi-factor authentication. We're adding lots of additional capabilities to address the BYOD scenarios. So if you have a device that you have corporate data on and it gets lost, you can still do a wipe of that to get that corporate data off of the device so it's not compromised. All of those capabilities will be present in Windows 8.1. One of them that we want to focus on here is we want to look a little bit more at the biometrics. So let's do a quick demo on the biometrics.
So what we have up here is a brand new biometric reader. It kind of looks like one of our Lumia phones a little bit. It's all yellow. It just sits right there. Now, this is different from the swipe your finger readers. How many of you have worked with and used the swipe your finger readers? Raise your hand. How many of you get it to work on the first time every time? You have an amazing finger, sir. Guys, like, yeah, every time it works. So what's nice about this one is you're going to notice this isn't a swipe, that this is actually just a single finger press. It literally just takes your fingerprint right off the front. So let's switch over to this. Is this, which one is this? Thank you. 8. There we go. So the first thing you're going to see is this works without even getting raised. So normally I'd have to swipe up and then get to the lock screen and all that. This is going to allow me to get in without doing any of that. So I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to press. I'm pressing.
You broke it.
I did. I have the bad finger. Let's try it. Nope, it's not liking me. We'll go down to the booth and go beat up the guys. Could be. All right, if this had worked, and I'll have discussions with the folks that did it, what it does is it immediately allows you to access the operating system. It's still in beta. It will be available in the next few months. What's nice is, with the features in 8.1, not only we're working with our OEM partners to build this into a wide variety of multiple machines, but you're also going to be able to say, in order to access my live account, instead of typing in a password, just touch your finger. If I want to buy an app, it comes up, do you really want to buy this app? Yes, it requires a fingerprint touch. So rather than having a password which can be compromised, you can set it to only a fingerprint touch. Fingerprint touch allows you in, gives you access to your system. gives you access to your apps, and actually can give you access to double clicks of data. We're also working with this so that you could actually take folders and say this folder requires a fingerprint access to get into. So different levels that we're looking at. There are 2 or 3 manufacturers that we're working very closely with to build these out. We'll get this working. If you come down to the booth, we'll show it to you in a little bit. We may need to reload in the driver, so fun stuff there.
And we'll also,
but when it works, it's really cool.
We'll be working with various OEMs to get these added into laptops, into tablets, into keyboards, into mice. So you'll begin to see these being more pervasively available, just to make it that much easier to log into Windows, because it's going to be much faster to just touch your finger to the device than it is to try to tap in a password on a tablet.
Correct. All right, let's switch back to our PowerPoint.
So, session-wise, Chris has a session on securing Windows 8 clients and resources from threats. I believe he will try to do this demo again in that session.
Yes.
And we'll be sitting in the front row to make sure that it works for him.
He's got the magic finger. So
he has the magic finger. So we'll try again for that. There's also a session on Thursday that Chris Jackson is doing on Windows 8 security internals, which digs deeper, especially into the new app model, and talks about, well, how did these new applications work? How have we redesigned the runtime environment so that these apps are protected from each other, that they protect your corporate data, your personal data from the applications that you're loading from the Windows Store.
Right.
So another interesting session to listen into. Now on the BYOD side, we're doing a lot around managing devices that aren't necessarily enterprise-owned. We've had in the past the ability to do management using Exchange ActiveSync, very lightweight control over security-based settings before you'll allow them to sync email to the device. We've also had full control type management solutions like System Center Configuration Manager. In the middle, we had more lightweight management using something like Windows Intune. But what we didn't have was the ability for other MDM vendors like AirWatch and Mobile Iron to really manage Windows 8 devices the same way. So with Windows 8.1, we'll have an OMA DM agent, Open Manageability Alliance, I forget what it stands for. It's another meaningless acronym. But it is an open MDM agent that's provided as part of Windows that can be leveraged by MDM vendors like AirWatch and Mobile Iron to do that lightweight manage of BYOD devices. That would include deploying software to them, deploying settings, capturing inventory, doing VPN configurations, doing wireless settings. A lot of the things that were shown to you in the keynote this morning will also be possible using these third-party MDM products.
We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I have some documentation I'm going to share with you guys you can download today that will dig in a little bit deeper on that.
For those of you who aren't as familiar with mobile device management, with Intune or with System Center Configuration Manager, Jim Dempsey has a session on that tomorrow afternoon. There's also another session from Eduardo Kasner talking about building a BYOD and flexible workspace strategy, so you can attend those sessions to get more information along those lines. Then we have mobility. We wanted to make sure that Windows 8.1 devices would work well regardless of where and how you're trying to connect them into your infrastructure. We wanted to improve the VPN capabilities. We saw some of the demos this morning talking about application-triggered VPN, so that you don't need to even tell the user before you run this app, you need to make sure you have a VPN connection. Instead, the system knows that when you access this network, when you run this application, when you access this website, I'll prompt you for VPN connection details. It'll automatically make the connection and use it for that application. We'll be able to do wireless projection. They mentioned that in the keynote session, demoed that. We will love that, especially on the Microsoft campus, so that we don't have all of the different cables and connectors in every one of our conference rooms to connect all the different devices that we have. We can just pair with our projectors and wirelessly project on the projectors in our conference rooms. We can do wireless printing without needing the infrastructure in place to do print servers or anything like that. We can do direct Wi-Fi direct printing to devices. We can also do the NFC printing that Ian was demoing this morning that I think eventually did print, but they had some delays in the print server this morning. But all of those capabilities will be built in. There'll also be support for mobile broadband in the Intel Atom-based slates, which wasn't possible before, but that'll be added in by Intel, and that'll be leveraged by Windows 8.1 in newer slate devices that are coming, so you won't need a separate USB mobile broadband device. You'll also be able to use Windows 8.1 as a personal hotspot, so you can have Windows connected to the internet and then make that available to other devices. So you get a choice now. Maybe you want to use your phone for tethering. Maybe you want to use your laptop for tethering. Doesn't matter. Either one will work. On the Windows to Go side, one of the challenges that we had with Windows to Go and Windows 8 was that the Windows Store was disabled by default. There were some licensing challenges with the Windows Store apps when they would be installed from the store. As that Windows to Go stick was moved from device to device, it would consume licenses for the app. And you would only be allowed to install that app on 5 devices. When you tried it on the 6th device, it would tell you, no, you need to go back out to the store and reacquire the app. With Windows 8.1, we're going to fix that and allow a effectively unlimited number of app installs. And then we can enable the Windows Store with Windows to Go. So with Windows to Go in 8.1, we'll be able to have the store and access apps. There will also be support for composite type devices, so you can have a device that has multiple purposes. It's mostly going to be security focused, so that we could have a Windows to Go device that has additional security capabilities built into it. So you'll see some additional interesting Windows to Go keys coming out in the future.
I actually want to take a break for a second. We're going to do a Windows to Go demo in a moment, but before we do, I want to point out some documentation I think that will answer some questions for you folks. If we take a look at the Springboard series on TechNet, this is windows.com/ITPro. This will take you out to our Windows Tech Center. And there's a new document, which is also a blog called Windows 8, What's New? And I want to spend a few moments and just chat about this. This is going to list a large number of the enterprise features that are new in Windows 8.1. Workplace join, work folders, OpenMDM, the MDM support that Michael was talking about, some of the new RDS enhancements. We'll talk about the new auto-triggered VPN, some of the new encryption and pervasive device encryption, device lockdown, boot to desktop. Yes, boot to desktop is available. So this document will continue to be updated. It was also a blog post this morning on Windows Team Blog. So if you want a nice way to be able to forward it to folks, it's right here. We will continue to add to that document that you saw on the TechNet site. We'll continue to add information to that as we get to build and beyond. That will be a living document. So the blog is great, but what you really do, and the one that I encourage you to bookmark, is this document that you'll find on the TechNet site. It will give you really good updates, and I suggest you go through it before you head to other sessions. We're going to open up for questions in a few minutes, and we'll try to answer some of these for you, but this is going to set up a lot of what you're doing. So we're going to do a Windows to Go demo, and then we'll come back, we'll answer some questions for you.
Do you want to try it one more time? Fingerprint?
Sure. Is it working now? We'll try it. Nope, still doesn't like me.
Still doesn't like you.
Nope.
Your finger's defective.
It is.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's switch machines here real quick. And we'll see my Windows 8 desktop here, which, if we want to prove it, we can see it's Windows 6.2, which is Windows 8. It's running my full corporate environment joined into Active Directory. I will go ahead and shut this down. And then I'll start it back up into Windows to Go, running Windows 8.1. Hopefully it shuts down quickly. I've got too much stuff running on my machine.
Let's also take questions while we're doing this. So if you have a question, there are microphones. Go ahead and step up. We'll be happy to answer them. them as best we can while we're waiting for the Windows to Go demo. So we'll start with that gentleman over there, and then we'll go to this one. Yes, sir.
You were discussing the upgradability and the way to upgrade. Do you know if you're going to have to blow away the machine to go into the consumer preview and then the beta and then back to licensed again, or will you be able to upgrade through those in place?
Yeah, anytime you have a beta, you are recommended to do it on a test machine because you really don't want to have the beta bits, which will be constantly updated to go to production machine. So you will need to go back and wipe your machines if you're at beta.
And there is an actual supported route to go from the preview release to the RTM, but it will only migrate data and users. It won't migrate apps. So it's basically a data-only migration. So when you go from the Windows 8 to Windows 8.1 via the store, you should expect that that system is not going to be able to preserve the apps as you move forward. If that's going to be a problem, well, that's not something you should be doing on a production machine. Maybe that's a good use for Windows to Go. You can use the Windows to Go stick to evaluate 8.1 and then just rebuild it when the RTM version comes out and leave your 8.0 system intact.
Yes, sir.
With the new biometrics support, are you expecting or enabling the ability to pass that directly to Active Directory, or is it doing a handshake with a normal password authentication?
It's going to be, and I guess Chris is probably the best person. My understanding is it happens locally, but it's backed up in AD. But I will recommend you chat with Chris Hallam in our security booth, and he can give you the deeper details on that. Other questions? Are we good?
It's kind of the elephant in the room, but we saw it on the keynote. Is anybody going to talk about the new start button and how it's going to work or anything like that? Are you allowed to?
We'll be getting into the UI details at the Build conference, so that's when we'll be digging in. We're really focusing in on the enterprise features. I just posted 3 pages of enterprise features, so we're going to want to focus in on those because that's a lot of the key stuff we will be talking about. Build conference, we'll dig into UI and talk more about those aspects. Any others? All right, we'll boot into Windows to Go then. And this will be leveraging 8.1 in the Windows to Go, correct?
So we can't see it until we actually get into the operating system, but first it prompts for my BitLocker password, and then it'll boot into the operating system. And as soon as that's up and running, we should be able to log in and continue from there. Another question over here while we're waiting.
Yeah, sorry, it's dark. It's hard to see everybody. Go ahead. If not, I'll have you move over to this mic because we know this one works.
I forgot your password.
I'll type it in for you. I'm not giving you my password. There we go. It's not connected to the internet. There you go. So, Windows 8.1, leveraging my Windows Live account. Yes, sir.
So, as long as we're talking enterprise, what version of System Center ConfigMan do we need to deploy 8.1?
Good question.
So there are, the deployment of the operating system is going to require the latest version of Configuration Manager, so Configuration Manager 2012 R2. That was the new release announced today. That will include full OS deployment support for Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows 8.1. On the light touch side, using the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, the same would be true. There'll be a new version, MDT 2013, to support Windows 8.1. Now, from a manageability perspective, if you just want to manage Windows 8.1 devices and not actually deploy the OS, then previous versions of System Center would be able to manage Windows 8.1, but it would require the new release to deploy it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Are we good? All right. We've gotten Windows to go, so we're good there. I think that takes us to our last slide. So let me bring that up. Presentation. Can't see the mouse. There we go.
So we do have another session this afternoon talking about Windows to Go that Craig is doing. I also have a session on Tuesday afternoon talking about Windows RT in the enterprise, talking about some of the changes in Windows 8.1 in regards to Windows RT, so we can get into more details there. As far as the functionality goes, on the UI side and on the application capabilities, we talked about those being shared at build.
Right.
The other functions that are covered in the blog postings that Stephen went through are listed here. Boot to desktop, start menu improvements, variable snap views, lots of additional capabilities being added into the operating system. I would encourage you to read through the blogs to get more details on those and to check out all the additional sessions that we listed as we went through here. And with that, I believe we are done.
Yeah, we've covered the resources, so we're good there. Of course, Channel 9, TechNet, MSDN. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time today.